like to invite you Dr. Sushil Kumar Upadhyay, sir. He is working as a professor in the Department of Technology and University. Dr. Upadhyay sir has achieved appreciation certificate of excellence, Bharat Jyoti Award, पर्यावरण रत्न पुरस्कार, विज्ञान रत्न पुरस्कार, भारत शिक्षा गौरव पुरस्कार, ग्लोबल ग्रीन अवार्ड्स, इलाइट टीचर्स अवार्ड, बेस्ट रिसर्चर अवार्ड्स, has been honored with Professor S.P. Gupta Gold Medal, Professor S.L. Misra Gold Medal, Best Educator Gold Medal, Innovative Geologist Gold Medal, Best Teachers Gold Medal, and many more. He has attended an activity, participated in 65 trainings and FDP and presented his research finding in 175 seminars and conference at international and national level. Dr. Upadhyay has no stone unturned in the field of molecular taxonomy and nanobiotechnology for Helmholtz taxon validation and Helmholtz, which can evaluate by his green contribution on DNA database with 73 gene bank submission as a part tool of phylogenetics validation of parasites, Helminthics, his contribution for employment to youth at grassroots level of livelihood and sustainability by the mission transfer of science and technology. Now I would like to invite you Dr. Sushil Kumar Upadhyay sir, and former special officer in crime control video.
Okay. Thank you.
Please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Siddharth.
Thank you, sir.
You have given a lot of introduction. I did not deserve it so much, actually, because I am the part of the organizer, actually. So thank you so much, Siddharth, for giving such kind of nice introduction. You have given much more better than I actually. So now I'd like to present my certain findings with you all and try to discuss our past finding and future perspectives. Is it visible, Mr. Siddharth?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Visible.
Okay. So, good afternoon, you all. Myself, Sushil Kumar Upadhyay, Assistant Professor here in MMDMTB University. I would like to present our experience and findings about biotechnological approaches in control of helminths and helminths-borne the focus from 12 to 18th, the strategy by COVID zoonotic diseases and other infectious diseases. Therefore, I have chosen this kind of title for today's talk. I planned my work especially on focusing certain themes. Just a second, Mr.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So I have planned my study in few themes. So the first is biotechnological transfer of technology for sustainability. The second is the organisms obtained during the helminthological study through barcode structure validation went for molecular phylogeny, and then proceeded through their phylogenetic analysis using certain advanced numerical tools. then what's the environmental impact? Because without the study of the environmental impact, we are not able to confine what's actually the effect will be over the human community and animal community. This is the primary experiments we have done through the EPIS. So our primary interest is the biotechnological product from the bioresources or natural resources. It is actually epitoxin. We have scraped out the epitoxin using the honeybee extractor formulated and designed by me, which is published for the patent actually. By that very instrument, we are able to extract crude extract, and our laboratory has received the grant of such kind of instrument as well under the auspicious supervision of SKM sir. So by the methods of the instruments for extraction of crude epitoxin, we followed the further steps for low molecular weight protein analysis and their in vitro application for anthelmintic potential, antimicrobial activities, as well as the growth supplemental role. Along with these, the epitoxin has certain other key points importance in medical science, especially rheumatic diseases, cure of arthritis, multiple sclerosis, scleroderma, and other associated disease, including atherosclerosis, as well as in hypertension. Modulate the production of interleukins by the application of this epitoxin to cure the autoimmune diseases is our concern as well. For processing of this and preservation of the epitoxin for long-term study and long-term application, we have to follow the epitoxin through the process of lyophilization. This is the actually instrument.
Sir, please unmute yourself. Sir, please.
Yes. Mr. Siddharth, are you well?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So our primary interest is the epitoxin for various key purposes. We have discussed it through the and then proceeded through the lyophilization. This lyophilization is performed by an instrument available in most of the laboratories. The purpose of the performing lyophilization for processing and further activity is to ability to reconstitute peptide into varied solvents through the freeze drying methods, lowering the temperature and pressure drawn out solvent behind frozen fraction samples. By this way, all the moisture content and other things has been taken out so that the live epitoxin can be stored for a long-term study as well. By this method, we have to use method for proper defreezing method of lyophilization. After attaining the lyophilization, we have to process through it separation by mass spectroscopy. It is the standard protocol we have to follow for finding of the constituent present in the epitoxin through the peaks and diagrams that is reflected. This here, a specialized constituents that were present is the melittin have a very key interest for enthelmintic potential actually. And this kind of activity has been carried out for extension outreach and livelihood program. It also provides employment among the grassroots level pupils for better sustainability and economic upliftment. This kind of activity we are working under the umbrella of Janjay Welfare Society, International Association of Geologists, Sarda Institute of Science, Technology, Education and Research, etc. It is a non-funded government organization. So we are working through that for livelihood and sustainability of our employment. During this method, we have to follow for parasitological investigation so that we can plan to the application for infiltrate potential. For this, we have chosen the fish model from freshwater fisheries and marine. These are the numerals of the models we have chosen and taken during the experimentation. After that, through standard parasitological protocol, we have processed the extracted parasites. If these are nematodes, then processed through hot alcohol and glycerol. If these are cestodes, then through 4% hot formaldehyde. And if nematode, then through Davidson fluid. As we know that these are parasites of different category, but all are belonging to the helminths. Based upon their structures, nematodes may called roundworms, cestodes also called flat and tapeworms. Nematodes are flat and flukes. The photomicrographs were taken using through Nikon trinocular microscope. Developmental phases and eggs were obtained from the muscles and visceral organs of the host through pepsin digestion method after Fribojopa laboratory manual. For more morphological analysis, ultratopography were performed using scanning electron microscopy. And after that, using through numerical analysis biostatistics through advanced numerical tools, STAT, we have to calculate MCD, CD, and CDs. These are the different parameters for the biostatistical analysis during the morphotaxonomy. And ultimately, it was validated and substantiated by the conserved gene sequence analysis. The data were obtained in the form of genetic DNA, were followed through the sequence, and the raw sequences were obtained, were processed through the different advanced tools for creating never joining and maximal livelihood dendrogram using through molecular evolutionary genetic analysis, Clustal W, and phylogeny FR. The parasites have very key importance or significance for the purpose of disease sharing, and it is called zoonosis. Most of the parasites which are found in other hosts may not be able to transmit through the human beings, but several of them belonging to the spiroid category, anisakid category, ascaroid category, stranglided category, they have. Okay, sir. Yes. They have power to transfer the level of human being. And those parasites which have capacity to transfer through the host to the human beings are called zoonotic parasites, and elements are among them and having very most important role to work with zoonotic parasites. Therefore, we have taken here epitoxin to reduce the infection of helminths by application of these along with the growth supplement role. This is the experimental design. We have chosen here rat model. By oral feeding of the larvae and eggs of the zoonotic parasites, different developmental stages has been obtained from certain visceral organs, and it is also validated through the histological studies, histopathology, and you can see that the liver having a good number of the eggs filled with the eggs, and everything has been eaten by the parasites. So ultratropography were performed using scanning electron microscopy. You can show this very good picture of the nematodes, Sterdinema, from the Genetodon cancella. This is a freshwater fish. We are feeding over the garfishes, having very nutritive value, but these parasites are present in the liver of that very fish and having the zoonotic significance. Therefore, it is advised the people should depend upon the aquaculture and food for the source of the nourishment as a fish place. They are requested to go through the proper examination and SOPs before eating it. Otherwise, if you are eating undercooked or raw food, then it may create certain damage and diseases in you all. This is the male parasites, how the papillae structures, distribution, and their ornamentation are able to recognize and it helps in the better survival of these parasites in different environments. This is the chimeral diagram created by hand under the microscopic study. During the molecular analysis, it was reported that these spiroidian worms, which are taken into the consideration for the study, having a different phylogeny falling under the insects and spiroid correlation, but it is entirely different. Therefore, we have planned it as a new genera, which may not reported earlier from any host till so far studied we are. This is from the freshwater nematode, and we created a new family as well, which has been published under the unpublished thesis under the supervision of Professor Sandeep Malhotra sir. This is the cladogram. These are the model gene sequences which we have taken from spiroidians using through nematode analysis and 18 srDNA sequences, and these are found in the single clade, showing the universal in occurrence, which is apart from Boise and Ascaris as well. This is the another pattern or layout only. The result is same through the K2P model. These are the another nematodes falling under the Dacnetoides category, Anisakid categories, Rostal scaries, Irongus scaries, Paracamelinus, showing the diversity of nematode parasites in the fishes. These are the cestores. Every organism having this kind of infection, we are not actually very much aware about that. Therefore, I would like to give an interest among the students which are following the PG may choose the line of parasitology as a future, and it will give an immense scope in the university academia along with the medical science. So these are the parasites belonging to different categories, hydrated from the shrimps, tetraphyllid from the sharks, and ctenid from the mammal host. These are the parasites from the fish. The first one is Gangesia. You can see the how much good ornamentation is found. The next one is Senga. It is from the Mastacemballus armatus, and other from the Letocystus taken out from the Clarius, showing a good structural organization and adaptation for their parasitic life. This is the morphotaxonomy actually we have performed for measurement using light microscopy. These are the comparative account. Then how beautiful picture of the trematode you can observe. All the structures are very much clear. This is the oral structure. This is the sucker-like sucker structure. These are the eggs, vitellaria, testis, ovary, and ventral suckers. How many things are well marked in these? You can go through proper staining techniques. These are the diagrams slides prepared by me during my PhD work as well, and still under the process we are preparing. This is the diagram. This is actually, I suppose Mr. Siddharth is very much aware about the pics here presented by me. These are the work studied areas.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
These some are the coastal lines. This is the Hooghly River of the Havra, and this is the estuarine area from which Hooghly is falling in the West Bengal, means Bay of Bengal. So I have visited all these places. You can go through that, then visit how my physique was actually at that moment. Now I have become quite more older. This is the young picture. Then going through the environmental analysis, you can plot the hydrobiological parameters and their oscillation going through the SCRI plot, and it is done under the Systat 11 software. This is the principal component analysis to assess the constitutive impact of all the hydrobiological parameters over the distribution dynamics of the parasites. Among these, in the marine habitat, it was showing that salinity, alkalinity having major impact on the infection prevalence in the Pisces of the host. So by these words, I would like to conclude because of the busy schedule in the NAC. There are some persons are visiting our department, so I would like to join there. The antibacterial and antihelminthic activity of different functional doses of toxin was analyzed in vitro through the diffusion assay, and it was found that the substantial B venom having the hepatopeptides 7-KDA play a significant role in antibacterial activity against the Streptococcus, as well as the helminths trematose, especially the cephalogonum, was taken into the consideration for the study. So thank you so much for your patience listening. So thank you so much. If anyone have any query, please ask. I will reply few questions. Mr. Siddharth, are you listening me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Maurya wants to ask some.
Do
Siddharth,
you have any query?
just unmute to Akhilesh Maurya.
Yeah, yeah.
He wants to ask something.
Yeah. Any question, please?
Yes, please,
Sir,
Mr. Akhilesh Moria, sir.
sir, my question on the lyophilizer.
Yeah.
May I perform the lyophilizer of organic solvent?
Under the organic solvent.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, I suppose if you are properly doing the work with the epitoxin and using any kinds of organic solvent, it will completely dissolute. I am just working over the crude epitoxin actually. So we don't add any kinds of solvent in that. We are here just removing the moisture content available in the epitoxin during the crude extraction. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Thank you so much. Any more, please? Okay, so thank you, Mr. Siddharth. I feel you have to call upon the next one if any guest is here. Otherwise, the scholars who are interested to present their slide, please call one by one to them. Okay?
Yes, sir. One guest speaker is here.
Yeah.
Thank you
You
so
have to
much,
introduce
sir.
about sir.
Your presentation is so much very innovative and useful. Yes, sir. Now I want to invite you, Dr. S. Ganapate Venkat Subramaniam, sir. He is a professor in Anna University, Chennai, and he is appointed as an expert member in the monitoring committee for Saint Querying operation by the Honorable High Court of Judicature Madras, and he is a Honorable Madurai Bench of Madras High Court. He is also nominated as His Excellence Governor of Tamil Nadu for the Senator member of the Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University, Chennai, and he is also deliver a lecture of Anna University EduSet program in KU band and etc. many more. So I would like to invite you, Dr. S. Ganapate, sir. Hello, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes,
Good
thank you
afternoon.
so much, sir. Please.
So you already it was fixed by 3:30 to 4 o'clock, and now the time is 3:30. So can I go up to 3:40? Half an hour. Okay. Hello. Are you able to hear
Hello.
my? Hello. Hello.
So you are audible. You may speak.
Okay. So now that I just wanted to know that now the time is 3:15. I time allotted is up to 3:45. I hope so. So half an hour. That is what, because initially it was given from 3:30 to 4 o'clock. Now it has been advanced. So I will be just as usual. I will take only the 30 minutes for my lecture, then 15 minutes. That is what I have been told by the coordinator of this program, because he just now only in the morning telephoned to me some 2 or 3 hours back. Okay. So I will just go up to 3:45 because 4 o'clock I have got another meeting in my office. So very good evening to everyone. At the outset, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the organizers of this program. And what is this one? So especially to Professor Shishil Kumar Upadhyaya, who sent that letter of invitation, and another gentleman by name Kitri, and I forgotten this name. I just extend my heartfelt thanks to both of them. And I am neither a zoologist nor a botanist, so I am totally from a different field. So you cannot expect me from the what is this one, this type of the lecture already I have just listened for a few minutes. And the topic which is being given to me is how far that the environmental legal regime is playing a good amount of the role for the effective environmental management. So, and in this connection, I just wanted to highlight the present constitutional provisions, legal provisions, and how far these legal provisions have been effectively interpreted by the Honorable Court in the case of discharging or in the case of the disposing the cases. And by way of disposing these cases, how far they have, what is this one? They have formed certain new principles and the doctrines. We all know that whatever the judgment pronounced by the Honorable Supreme Court, it will become the law of that land. So in that case, whatever that the judgments, they have already, that law is being interpreted, and it is also fit within the ambit and scope of the Constitution. And with that one, how far it is within the Constitution, when it is overstepping the limitation of the Constitution, it will say null and void. And it has gone a little more step ahead because of the judicial activism which is taking place. You could have seen in the last, say, 6 months to one year, there are a lot of cases coming in the Supreme Court. And in that one, the Supreme Court is also doing that, is taking charge of that executive and the legislation. So that is a judicial activism is taking place, whether it is the COVID or whether it may be with reference to the other one, the farmers' problem and all. And whether it is a good trend or a not good trend, it is a highly debatable one. So I will restrict my talk with reference to the environmental management and the legal regime, both at the national level as well as the international level. Okay. So now, for the purpose of a good environmental management, I say that in my opinion that the three E's are very essential. So 3 E's in the sense means, number 1, we can say that education one. Number 2 is the engineering. Number 3 is the enforcement aspect. Number 4 is the economics. This economic regime is recently upcoming. But whether it is that economic regime to be infused along with the enforcement regime, it is a highly debatable one. On one hand, we can say that the environment is not a freely available commodity. Though the common property resources are at the free of cost, God has created for everyone. But because of some overuse, misuse and abuse, with the result, the government wanted to just price certain environmental things as a goods and price the thing also. So for that reason, they started even charging certain environmental goods. That I will come in the later stage. Okay. Now coming back to the education aspects, that is by creating some good awareness with the people about the environmental aspects, we can have a good environmental management. Why I am stressing this one means I have seen at the several places that even the people who are highly educated, as far as that environmental knowledge is concerned, it will be a very poor only. Take for example that in the most of the household, that is that woman, when they are just in the vegetable waste, whatever they are farmed inside the kitchen, if they just like that to throw it outside, it will get automatically biodegraded. But on the other hand, thinking that they are doing it in the most environmental friendly manner, they will just put it inside the plastic cover and throw it off. With the result, you are making a biodegradable one, an easy degradable one into a non-biodegradable, and it will take its own time for the degradation if no one is untying that knot. And most of the time we can able to see that these type of that waste, no one will be segregating and they will be going along to the other waste also. So had that woman been taught that you have to segregate it and you should not put it inside the plastic cover, means certainly that waste will be treated in a proper manner. Similarly, I have seen in the several places even that sanitary napkins, then this type of the diapers, they are considered to be the biomedical waste, and they are mixing along with the municipal solid waste and just sending the thing. You just think about the person who is handling that waste. If that person who is without, if he is not given any of the personal protective equipments, his life and his health is being endangered because of his exposure to this type of the infectious microorganisms. And moreover, if you are just throwing it, the thing means when that you just think about the fate of the people who are on the windward direction, because this type of the biomedical waste will be harboring millions and millions of the bacteria, and when these bacteria are carried over, and that will be causing a lot of infection on the people who are residing on the surrounding area. So what the point I would like to state here is, had the people been taught properly about that environmental knowledge, certainly this type of the mixing of the waste can be averted also. So, and taking this fact into consideration, even in the Supreme Court in one of the judgment has made it a mandatory of introducing one subject, namely the environmental science and engineering in the undergraduate program, and they wanted to sensitize that younger generation so that the message will be carried over for a long time. And in fact, that the government is also funding for the various organizations to organize several programs for the special type of that audience, some specific programs like a biomedical waste management or the hazardous waste management or the coastal regulation zone, like that. These type of the programs are specifically organized for the specific type of that audience, like advocates, adjudicators, academicians, administrators, even for that environmental auditors, in fact. So now the first E, that is the purpose of creating an awareness, is to sensitize the people. Once they are sensitized, then they will have a commitment. Once they have a commitment, means they will not be indulging in any activity, and they will not be allowing the others to do that activity also. Then the second E, which I can say, that the engineering. There is no second opinion over that engineering, because unless otherwise the scientific principles are infused along with the engineering design and developing a technology, you cannot be able to have a good environmental management. And whether it is the water treatment or the wastewater treatment or the biomedical waste management or the hazardous waste, anything and everything, the technology is absolutely essential. But with this engineering and with this education alone, we cannot be able to have an effective environmental management unless the third E, namely that enforcement aspect, is very essential. Now, enforcement regime, that is what which is not given the due importance in our country, what it is to be given for that matter. And why I am saying this so means, we have got a plethora of environmental legislations, and we have got a good amount of the constitutional provisions also, and we have got a good governance system, and a good executive system is also present by way of various pollution control boards, central pollution control boards, central level Department of Environment, state level, everything is there. But in spite of that, we could not be able to effectively enforce both the letter and spirit that the environmental legislations for obvious reasons for that matter. So now we will see about that. Just I am switching over to the economic regime. Economic regime in the recent past 5 to 10 years, this is very much upcoming. Upcoming in the sense means, previously these environmental goods were available at a free of cost. Now the government is slowly started charging these type of the goods also. Now, by way of charging, take for example the coastal areas, if they wanted to keep it neat and clean, means then anyone who is just going to the coastal area at the beach means have to pay some sort of a toll tax like that thing. Similarly, that lakes, reservoirs and all also, and similarly even for the waste management also, that is whatever that after the due use of the product, whatever that waste which you are generating it, that waste for the purpose of effective disposal from the environment. So they are putting some charges on the consumer to pay for that one also. So now this economic regime is slowly infusing into that enforcement regime. But is it a good one or is it not a good? It is not a good. It is not good one. It is a debatable one, because our constitution prescribed the justice, social, economic, political. So whether we wanted to attain the social justice or whether we wanted to attain the economic justice or vice versa at the cost of each other, that is a very, very a tricky question. It is highly a debatable question also. So now Let us, and moreover, because of the liberalization, privatization, and the globalization, and because of the revolution in the communication technology, we could be able to get any goods from any part of the world. And with the result, what has happened means these disposal cost or that other environmental cost, to who has to bear that? That question becomes. And slowly we are also moving from the socialistic pattern to a little bit a capitalistic pattern. So everything is going to be priced also because of the privatization and other things. So that is a debatable question. But now coming back to the point, on one way I can say it is a good one, because anything which is available at the free of cost means there is a tendency to misuse, overuse and abuse it. But on the other hand, if you put it a little more cost on that particular product, means certainly there will be a limitations of that use will be. There is will be a judicial use will be there. But this one, in the case, the other side of the coin is then the people who are affluent only could be able to enjoy the fruits of the scientific development. The people who are in the middle and the lower middle could not be able to enjoy the fruits. So that is that another question. So with the result, what will happen means in the name of attaining that economic justice, that slowly the social justice is also being defeated in this one. That's what I told you. This is a very debatable one. Now, coming back to the enforcement one, whether for the enforcement regime, for the purpose of good enforcement regime, and we need the good legislations. Whether we are having the good legislations, certainly I can say that India is one among the few countries in the world, or I can say even the second country in the world, where they have got a plethora of legislations are available. And I can classify it into two aspects. So one, the environmental legislations, another one is the environmental legislations. So what is the difference between the two means environmental legislations are the other legislations where adequate provisions are available in order to keep the public health and hygiene in the good manner. So without mentioning that word environment, we are having the other take for example other legislations. Take for example the Factories Act. Take for example the Fisheries Act, or the Sarais Act, or the Indian Police Act, or the Indian Penal Code. So in all these legislations, adequate provisions are very much available. That is how to keep that factory premises neat and clean, then how to keep that ventilation, aeration, temperature maintenance, not mixing of this, what is this one, that industrial waste along with the municipal waste. There should not be any mixing of the solid waste to the liquid waste. All these things are very much clearly mentioned. It is very much advocating, in fact, that public health and hygiene, but without mentioning that word environment. Similarly, take for example, even the Fisheries Act also, that fishes should not be caught during the juvenile stage, or the fishes should not be caught by using that explosive materials, because that explosive material will be affecting that ecosystem. Like that, we are having the provisions. Even that Indian Penal Code, we are having the section 245, 247, 246 and all. That is the nuisance, negligence. All these things can be extrapolated with reference to that environmental, and we can prosecute that individual, and a fine can be also be imposed. Adequate provisions are very much available. Take for example, even the Indian Police Act. Indian Police Act, that playing of the drums and other things in the public places, it is very much prohibited. In a way, we can say that it is curtailing that noise pollution, we can say. So that is that, as far as that legislations with the provisions of the public health and hygiene, I can say there is no scarcity at all. Apart from that, we have got legislations which are exclusively enacted for the purpose of environmental protection. What are those legislations, if you ask, means namely this Air Act is there, Water Act is there, Environmental Protection Act is there, Public Liability Insurance Act is there. Then you are having that National Green Tribunal Act is also there. If I just go with the bird's eye view, or if I just what is this one, straff these legislations, means that is the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, which was enacted in the year 1974, after that Stockholm Declaration in the year 1972. It gives adequate provisions to form an executive to form a good governance system, and it is empowering that governance system to keep that water bodies, lakes, reservoirs, and that rivers to neat and clean. And if anyone discharges any type of that effluent means, and whether it is an industrial source or from the sewage source, and these executive system is empowered to prosecute them also. And for the purpose of that prosecution, again, they are empowered to collect the samples, analyze the samples. For this, all these rules and regulations are clearly mentioned in this act. And in fact, after that, it has given the adequate provision to form independent statutory bodies like a pollution control board, both at the central and the state level. Now we are having all the states have their own independent pollution control boards with the laboratory facilities, and they can be able to collect the sample, analyze it, and if they exceed the standard which is prescribed by the Central Pollution Control Board, means they are empowered to prosecute them. And prosecute in the sense means they are empowered to to cut the electricity, to cut the water supply, or cut even the close down that industry also. That much power has been given. Apart from that, these pollution control boards are empowered to grant license to start any industries. That is after duly examining this environmental impact assessment report by the state level environmental expert appraisal committee. After that, putting forth to the state level environmental expert authority, then that public hearing, and after the public hearing, they will be giving the license to give sanction to this industry. Of course, the collector will be consensus to operate it. There, that work is not over. The pollution control board is empowered to monitor the thing. So, and pollution control board at the central level, the Ministry of Environment and Forest is given the power to prescribe the standards also for the various the various effluents. So that much amount of the provisions are very much available in our Water Act with reference to the water pollution and with reference to the air in the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act also. So, and see that the Air Act was enacted in the year 1981, but at the time it was thought that mainly environment means we were under the opinion that water and the air alone is the environment. But later on only, after the Bhopal gas tragedy, we came to understand that environment is a very big one. It includes everything under the sky, and even the sky also, that is under the sky. So whether it is the water, air, or the soil, or the biodiversity, or even the social environment also. So that fact came into the light to the government of India after a big catastrophe which has happened in the year 1984. We all know that in the year 1984, the Bhopal gas tragedy has happened. At the time, there was no suitable legislations available to give the compensation to any damage which was caused because of that accident inside the factory premises to the outside that factory. But later on only the government of India has opened that eyes. Okay, this is the right time that we have to enact an umbrella act, a comprehensive act, a holistic act. And with the result in the year 1986 that the Environmental Protection Act was enacted. So in this act, all the domains of that environment has been taken into consideration. And one more thing also, the speciality of this law, of this act is, it empowers the executive, namely the concerned Ministry of Environment and Forest, to bring any rules, regulations, bylaws, notifications and all. Now we can ask me what is the sanctity over this one means. See, if you wanted to enact a legislation means it is a very tedious procedure to bringing a legislation, and that is what is this one, that bill has to be introduced in the parliament, then first reading, second reading in Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, accent to the president. It will take a long time, but that environment may not be waiting till such a time. So, and in that case, the other alternative is you have to bring the ordinance. So again, that ordinance also has got the 6 months validity. So taking these factors and all into consideration, that the parliament is empowered the executive, namely the concerned ministry, to make to bring any rules, regulations under the delegated provisions of the legislation. So with the result.
Excuse me,
And
sir.
this is the most important one. Why I am saying this so means, and by using this section 5 of that Environmental Protection Act only, the government, the Ministry of Environment, brought nearly 100 rules and regulations. You take all the important domains like solid waste management handling rules, biomedical waste, biomedical. Yes, sir.
Sir, please conclude because of half an hour.
15 minutes only over, but anyhow, I will just conclude it. So now another 5 minutes I will conclude it. No problem at all. Because the law is a bottomless pit, and moreover, I have got a sufficient amount of that thing is available. I can able to talk continuously for 2 hours also without even a small paper. That is a God-given gift to me. So now, okay, since you have given me this yellow signal, I will just conclude it in another 5 minutes. So coming back to that, the legal provisions are very much available. Constitutional provisions are very much available, namely that Article 48A, 51AG, Article 47A, and in fact, these Article 48A and 51AG read along with that Article 21 of the Constitution and made this environmental right as one of the fundamental right by the Honorable Supreme Court in one of the cases also while delivering the judgment also. So now that the environmental right has become one of the fundamental right also. So when this right is being infringed means we have got a right to go to that way of filing the writ petition and get back our right under the Article 32 and 226 of the Constitution. And above all, that there are number of the international legal regime also play a good amount of role for the emergence of the domestic legal regime. Whether it is the Stockholm Declaration or the Nairobi Declaration or the Rio Declaration or United Nations Framework Convention on the Climate Change, then you have got a Biodiversity Convention, you have got the Montreal Convention, you have got that Basel Convention, Biodiversity, like that we are having several conventions, several protocols, Kyoto Protocol and other things are there. Now, that importance is these type of that international regime plays a good role for the emergence of the domestic legal regime, because environment cannot be viewed in an isolated way, with the result that whatever that activity which you are doing it within your country by way of claiming yourself the sovereignty of the country, you cannot do more than that which is causing that pollution and affecting the other countries also. That is what even for the climate change, that is the greenhouse gases and the that global warming. I can talk hours together in that topic now. So that is the legal regime. After that only we have got that biomedical waste management handling rules are brought, then hazardous waste management handling rules have been brought, then Biodiversity Act has also been brought. So now that after the climate change convention, we have brought the climate change policy also. So again, we are very much cooperating, and that international legal regime also playing a good role in our domestic legal regime. Finally, just 2 minutes, the Supreme Court has also played a good amount of role by way of declaring certain principles on the doctrines. In the recent judgments given by the NGT, National Green Tribunal, most of the cases it is finding finding that industry or even the government also. And wherefrom it has got that means now the Supreme Court in one of the judgments, Vellore Citizens Welfare Forum case, has said the polluter pays principle. So based upon the polluter pays principle, they are fining them people also. That is, it is not a license to pollute it. But again, if you pollute it due to the negligence or due to your careless attitude and all, then you have to pay for that in order to retrieve back to the original condition. Precautionary principle, one of the most important principle I can say. In fact, that is, just because you don't have the scientific evidence, you cannot escape from the clutches of that law. And the Supreme Court very clearly said that if there is no scientific evidence is available, still you cannot give the benefit of doubt to the industry. We can stop the project also. And again, that precautionary principle I told you, then public trust doctrine. Government is not the owner of the property. It is only the guardian and custodian of the property. It must be used for the purpose it is meant for that. Then you are having what is that absolute liability. Even the developed countries, we are having the strict liability, whereas in India we are having the absolute liability. then intergenerational equity, sustainable development, but we are having everything. Finally, I can say that you are having the plethora of legislation, constitutional provisions is available, international law is available, but one question arises, sir, in spite of all that, why we could not be able to get the expected level of environmental clean and hygienicity in them? There only the problem comes in the course of enforcement. So in the course of enforcement, we encounter lot of difficulties, not only in executing, even in the available law also, we are having certain lacuna are there. Certain lacuna has fallen deliberately, and certain one has accidentally also. And this has been used by the miscreants in an effective way also. So like that, I can quote that 10 or 15 points over that, but because of the paucity of the time, I don't want to trespass into the others' time limitation. So I just taken a few minutes. More than that, it is not fair on my part. Finally, I will end with the 3 P's, namely this, what is this political will, public participation, and the professional ethics. If these 3 are very, very important, any number of the legislations available, that is what our Justice V.R. Krishna has said. We have got the guided missile, but in the hands of the unguided man. And again, what is this one? But there is no point in amending the constitution unless otherwise we bend the minds of the people. That is the most important. So for that, we must have that professional ethics as an environmentalist, and of course the government should have the political will, and above all the public participation. That is the most important. Okay, so with this I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to share my views. And in the next opportunity, when some other conference or some other time means, certainly we will be discussing thread by thread that legal regime, which is also the most important one. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, अभी participants को बुलाया जाए शायद.
So thank you so much, sir, for this kind of illuminative, informative talk. It was quite more amalgamated with the legal, social, and biomedical, biodiversity, and everything, environmental aspects. We have learned a lot, even though it was quite constitutional. So we are not able to understand that very more because of the students of the biological science. But we have learned many more things from you. Thank you, sir, for giving such kind of innovative talk and giving time for us. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Now over to Mr. Siddharth for calling young scientists for presentation. Mr. Siddharth.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And now is Rehna Nara. Maharishi Markandeya, sir, deemed to be university. Please, ma'am.
Good afternoon, all of you. Sir, my screen is visible.
Charisma, excuse me. No.
Yeah.
Charisma, ma'am, please share the PPT. Be ready, Anita Jadhav. Next one is Anita Jadhav. Then last one is Miss Purti Misra.
Good afternoon, all of you. I am here to present my poster. My topic is antiviral potential of nanenzinine.
Miss Archana, please open your video also.
Okay, sir. Wait a minute. Sir, I don't have the access to
Yeah,
open
please,
my
Miss Charisma, please allow her to present by video as well.
Okay, sir. Sir, already allowed.
Take her presenter.
No, I don't have.
Yeah, you can get access. Just wait and start. Okay, and then present. Start
Sir,
your presentation.
sir, actually, I don't have the permission to use the camera. No available camera found.
No,
Just
already allowed.
But sir,
Miss
it's not.
once again. Yeah, Miss Nara, you have to try once again. And if not so, you have to present by audio as well. Okay.
I can present with
Yeah.
audio.
Yeah, you have to. You have to.
Sorry for the interruption. So my topic is on narinxine, uh, antiviral potential of narinxine. Narinxine is a colorless and tasteless flamminen. It is a glycan of narinxine. Narinxine is a bitter substance present in citrus fruit. How we get narinxine? Narinxine, when enzyme narinxine react with narinxine, it break down into two substances, purine and narinxine. Now, narinxine is mainly found in citrus fruits and vegetables. It have antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and antiviral properties. Molecular formula of narinxine is C15H12O5. Narinxine is also work against viral disease like hepatitis C, Zika virus, dengue, and chikungunya. By some recent studies, narinxine have antiviral and anti-inflammatory properties against SARS, COVID-2, and COVID-19. Narinxine can act on neutrophils, T cells, NK cells, macrophages, and reduce the expression of proteins and receptors. Narinxine also reduces the entry of virus and its replication via modulation of surface molecules. Production of antiviral components take place. Narinxine directly interact with viral components. It is also noticed that it also reduces the replication and cytokinin production of citrus of virus. So sources of narinxine. Narinxine is naturally present in citrus fruits and vegetables like lemon, grapefruit, orange, tomatoes, and bergamot. Because of its low bioavailability, some nanoparticles which contain narinxine are in market to solve many human health problems. Uh, it its bioavailability is low because of its therapeutic potential. Narinxine is hampered due to its hydrophobic nature. Nanocarriers that have been used as delivery system for narinxine, including polymeric nanoparticles, micelles, liposomes, solid lipid nanoparticles. The oral bioavailability of narinxine is about 5.81%. The intake of narinxine occurs in gastrointestinal tract by active transport and passive diffusion process. The duodenum have 47%, ileum have 42%, and jejunum have 39% of consumption rate of narinxine. After this, the narinxine get attached with albumin. Albumin is a protein made by our liver. Then the narinxine get distributed in different organs like kidney, spleen, liver, cerebrum, and heart. The metabolites of narinxine finally remove out from the body by biliary and urinary tract. Applications, it has many pharmacological properties. Some of are the narinxine play as an antiviral activity, anti-inflammatory activity, antioxidant activity, anti-diabetic activity, and anti-cancer activity. So I'm done, sir.
Have you completed, Ms.
Yes, sir.
Nara?
Yes, sir. I am completed.
Okay. Now the presentation is open for discussion for all the young scholars present in the conference. So please ask if you have any query. Okay. Thank you, Archana Nara, for your nice presentation.
Thank you,
have
sir.
chosen
Thank you so much.
topic antiviral potential of narinxine. Okay.
Yes,
Here
sir.
you have mentioned as a flavanone. Does any difference between flavonoid and flavonol?
Sir, I think I'm not clear about that, but I have idea that flavonoid is a part of flavonoid.
Yeah. Okay. Secondly, you have used certain nanoparticles, using the term nanoparticles. What you have done about the nanoparticles here?
Sir, I didn't done practical work on this. I just read some research papers. So
Yeah.
this is that the naringenin is not present that we can get it from natural fruits. Its bioavailability is lesser. So for the to increase the bioavailability, we have some nanoparticles or nanocarriers which contain naringenin.
Yeah. But what kind of the formulation you have to use? There are various kinds of nano formulation actually. What kind of compatible formulation is responsible for this kind of naringin actually? Is it
Sir,
carbon, green, gold coated, silver? There are several kinds. Do you
sir,
have heard about or learn?
sir, actually, I didn't have any idea about this more than this.
Okay. Do you know about the nanoparticle? What is nanoparticles?
So nanoparticles are mainly not seen by naked eyes.
Yeah.
And, they are carriers of, matlab, they can carry some important phenomenon or
What is the size of nanoparticles?
so exactly, I don't know the size of nanoparticles, but they are we cannot see them by naked eyes.
Okay. And how the bioavailability क्या आपने बताया ना, do bioavailability of the naringin can be increased or enhanced? ना? Yeah, potential of activity can be enhanced by using nanoformulation.
Sir, we to increase bioavailability of
Availability.
yes, sir.
During the bioavailability, does quantity increased or potential activity increased?
Sir, therapeutic potential increase होता है, sir.
Okay. So thank you so much for
Thank you, sir.
kind and nice
Excuse
presentation.
me, sir. Excuse me,
Yes.
sir. Akhilesh Moria, sir, please asked anything.
Yes, I have a question. Do you know about the nanoparticles on
Yes, sir.
which naringenin deposited or not? What is the process of the deposition of naringenin on the nanoparticle?
What is the deposition of?
What is the process for the deposition of naringenin on the nanoparticles by which you can increase the potential of the nanoparticles using the naringenin?
सर नैनो कैरियर्स हम यूज करते हैं आप प्रोसेस पूछ रहे हैं कि हम कैसे कैसे उसको नैनो पार्टिकल्स में डिलीवर करते हैं
Yes. My question is how you deposit naringenin on nanoparticles?
सॉरी सर नो आइडिया अबाउट दिस
Okay, thank you.
थैंक यू सर
Thank you so much, Rachana Nara ma'am. Now I would
Thank
like to
you, sir.
invite you. Now I would like to invite you, Miss Anita Yadav, Department of Zoology, CMPPG Constitute College, Prayagraj, UP.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yes, please.
Sir.
Yes, Miss Anita, please start your presentation, please.
Yes, sir. Sir, my screen is visible.
Yes.
At my end, I'm not able to see.
Good evening, all distinguished members of the audience. Today, I discuss about the potential bioindicator characteristics of marine nematode revealed by energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy microanalysis. Bioindicator is a very broad term, and we generally use. Yes, sir.
Now your screen is not visible.
Sir,
Yeah.
trying now. Sir, 1 minute more. Sir, sir, is it visible now?
Yeah, it is visible now. You have to present by full slide mode. Slide show. You have to click on slide show.
Distinguished members of the audience, today I discuss about potential bioindicator characteristics of marine nematode revealed by energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy microanalysis. Bioindicator is a very broad term, and we generally use it for the assessment of environment quality, health, ecosystem, etc. Parasites are effective potential indicator of anthropogenic pollution, like water pollution in both marine and freshwater ecosystem. These are some points by which we categorize parasites as bioindicator. The bioindicator parasites have long lifespan, high degree of site specificity, means this parasite found in a specific location in the host body. And bioindicator parasite is very suitable for detecting of changes in environment. And when environment in change, this parasite will the basis of their role. Bioindicators is 3 types. One is diagnostic indicator, another one is early warning indicator, and next one is the compliance indicator. These are the potential uses of bioindicators. And now I discuss.
Miss Anita, you have to click over ना स्लाइड शो, तो देन ये प्रॉब्लम आपकी नहीं आएगी. स्लाइड शो होगा नीचे ना, या उल्टा कीप जैसा.
I do. Now I discuss about energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy. This is an analytical modern techniques by which chemical and elemental analysis of any samples occur, including biological samples, etc. And I used it for the analysis of heavy metals in nematode parasites of Aries falcaris, which I collect from central west coast of India, Goa. And the parasite is Rosales-Caris spinichordatum. This is the light microscope diagram of Rosales-Caris spinichordatum. This one is interlabia, and this part is the oral armature. And this is the electron SCM image of these parasites. And this is the oral armature of this parasite. And when we use the EDX, energy dispersive X-ray analysis, in particular this part, means we pour the electron beam to 50 seconds in this part, and we got these chemicals in this part: calcium carbonate, SiO2, FeS2, and Fe. When these parts absorb high beam of electron, then they break in their elemental part like carbon, oxygen, sulfur, and iron. And this one is the spectrum of these elements. This is the caudal papillae of this Rosselus caris spinichordatum, and same process of EDX is we do in this part, and content is changed. In this part, only calcium carbonate and silica, means carbon and oxygen is found, and this is the spectrum of this part. Almost conclusion is that iron and sulfur is the elemental part which found in parasites, and the parasite absorb these elements from the body of host. The sulfur is a basic element of amino acid cysteine and cysteine, which is involved in the formation of protein, which give the strength to oral armature of Rosselus caris spinichordatum. And iron is the heavy metal and pollutant of environment in marine system, in freshwater ecosystem, and also harmful for the fish. And this parasite absorb the excess of iron from the body of host. The content of iron is the amount of iron is greater in body of parasite in comparison to host body. It means at this point, this parasite is beneficial for fish in the point of iron. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Anita, for nice presentation. You have given a new dimension in the parasitology, actually, I suppose.
Sir, I have tell something if you allow.
Yeah.
मैं उसको हिंदी में कहना चाहती हूँ.
जी जी बताइए.
जी सर, जैसा हम पहले किताबों में पढ़ते थे कि पैरासाइट बेनिफिशियल होता है या फिर वो आयरन या उसको एब्जॉर्ब करके मछली को हार्म पहुंचाता है, लेकिन जब इस स्टडी में मैंने देखा तो आई एम शॉक कि पैरासाइट के अंदर लार्वल फॉर्म के अंदर आयरन का अमाउंट एडल्ट से ज्यादा था और मछली में आयरन नहीं है, पैरासाइट में आयरन है, और ये आयरन फिश का है.
Yes.
पैरासाइट फूड एब्जॉर्ब करता है थ्रू स्किन होस्ट से. ये प्रमाणित हो गया कि सल्फर और आयरन एब्जॉर्ब हुआ है पैरासाइट की ओरल आर्मेचर में होस्ट की बॉडी से. ऐसा हम पहले पढ़ते थे, लेकिन इस EDX एनालिसिस से ये प्रूव हो गया कि वो एब्जॉर्ब करता है, ऐसे ही वो न्यूट्रिशियस एलिमेंट भी एब्जॉर्ब करता है. थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू सो मच.
क्योंकि बायोकेमिकल और मॉलिक्यूलर की बात हम लोग करते थे, लेकिन कभी हम लोगों ने इस तरीके से EDX MA की बात नहीं सोची. You really have given a new dimension, and it will be might be possible it will be a pathfinder for the newcomers as well. Best of luck for the future in this line. And I wish to ask one thing actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have to come with your name वाली slide ले आइए आप अपनी title slide.
Okay, sir.
थोड़ा सा इसको एडजस्ट करिएगा बीच में.
जी सर, 1 minute.
Yes, no problem. जी आपका टाइटल ना जो लिखा है मैम, आई एम सॉरी.
जी
इसे पढ़िएगा, पहली लाइन पढ़िएगा.
Potential bioindicator characteristics of marine nematode revealed by
characteristic. No, characteristic. You have to check the characteristic.
Yes sir.
Do you have to check it? Anything missing?
Yes sir.
What?
Sorry sir.
Yes. Okay. Okay, no problem. Then the next is you have mentioned is Rostal scaris spinichordatum.
Yes, sir.
Can you please explain the meaning of Rostal scaris and spinichordatum?
Sir, there is a rostellar hook is present, so we call it Rostellar scaris, and spine is present in the male in the posterior end of the male, so we call it spinichordatum.
Yes. Okay. Chordum is tail, spiny
Chordum,
tail
yes.
actually.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
The next is you have to worked over both the area, freshwater and marine both.
Yes, sir.
Can you please tell me any 2-point major difference between the freshwater and marine water? Two major difference.
Sir, in case of parasites, I found the amount of parasite.
Okay. I can understand there is a great diversity in the marine water and freshwater. Only I know about in the freshwater and marine water.
Sir, the dissolved oxygen is low in marine water, and dissolved oxygen is high in fresh water, and the hardness is high in marine water and hardness is low in fresh water, I found.
Yeah. What is the? I'm asking very large question because of the interest in the parasitology. I'm sorry. But
No,
what the range you have recorded actually? The DO range. What kind of the DO range you have recorded?
sir, I found different DO range in river Ganges.
Range. Yeah, it's certain range.
At least 9 after the lockdown of COVID, and
Yes.
7, 6, and at this time 6.5, and in marine water I found 4, 3.5, 5, like.
Okay. I suppose the greater difference in the salinity was the major aspect. Huh?
Yes.
You have to find it. Basic difference between the marine water and fresh water. My teacher have suggested me, I suppose, if I'm right, the salinity of fresh water is near means 0. However, the salinity of marine water is about 38 ppm. So this is the major basic difference from which we can differentiate the, okay. So thank you so much, Miss Anita.
Thank
Wish
you,
you
sir.
all the best for the new dimension in the parasitology at University of Allahabad.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Now, Mr. Siddharth, you have to call the next young scientist, please.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to invite you, Miss Purti Misra, Maharishi Markandeya, Dim to University, Mulana. And thank you so much, Miss Anita Yadav. Please, Purti Misra, ma'am.
Hello, good afternoon to everyone. I am audible to all.
Yes, audible.
Please present my poster.
Yeah, just wait for a while. Miss Anita, just stop sharing your screen. Miss Anita. Is it visible to everyone?
Yes, good afternoon to everyone. Myself, Purti Misra. I am here to present my poster on development of macrocyclic scaffold with biological importance as anti-HIV agent. I'm audible to all?
Yeah, Miss Purti, you have to open your video at least, please.
Okay, sir. Sure.
Yeah.
Please zoom the slide.
Yeah. Okay, now you can present.
I'm here to
Ma'am.
present my poster on development of macrocyclic scaffold with biological importance as anti-HIV agent. As all know well, HIV is a worldwide problem, and because there are no cure for the HIV infections, but still we can prevent HIV. Prevent HIV infections with various pharmacological drugs, and in this race, microcyclic scaffold, because of their unique architecture, host-based chemistry, and flexibility, exhibit excellent activity in as an anti-HIV agent. And here is some literature about the anti-HIV agent of the macrocyclic scaffolds, and like various macrocyclic compounds in histone deacetylase selective inhibitors, and which inhibit the enzymatic activity, and they are very selective in nature and inhibit the HIV/AIDS. And please zoom the slide.
Miss Karishma, please zoom. I hope during the sharing, no zoom option is there. Okay.
Okay, sir. No problem.
Do you have anything in your mobile? Then you have to ask. Yes, Miss Purti
Hello.
ma'am. Yes.
I'm audible or not?
Yeah, audible.
Yes, and the synthesis of various anti-HIV agents like the cyclotriagen scaffolds, and cyclotriaxfold, which directly inhibit the entry of the HIV virus, that is HIV 1 and 2 both, and also protease inhibitor activities of the macrocyclic scaffolds, which mimic the natural peptide substrate of the enzyme and bind with the active site of the enzyme and prevent to targeting the actual natural enzymes, and there is the integrase inhibitor activity of the macrocyclic scaffolds also, and which prevent the replication of the viral genetic material, and prevent the infection of the HIV virus. And I have prepared a structure with orthophenylene diamine and the succinamide in presence of cobalt sulfate, and this is my proposed structure. And after the IR and NMR, I confirmed the formation of this structure, and I sent this structure for the checking their anti-HIV activities.
Have you finished, madam?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, can you please your slide? The title actually. We are not able to find your slide actually. You have to share so that I can use the title. So something title containing the anti-HIV. Are you able to?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, yes, sir.
Please,
Now.
please be stable and come with the face. We are not able to see complete face. So
Okay,
please,
sir.
yeah, just go away from the little bit camera so that we can visualize you and discuss. Okay, ma'am? Yes.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Now, ma'am, you have presented excellent, but the poster size was quite big, so it was not very much visible. But
Okay,
you
sir.
have presented excellent talk over the aspects on the anti-HIV. I would like to know, first of all, what is HIV? Can you please, ma'am, explain?
HIV is the HIV is the human immunovirus which causes AIDS.
Yeah. How it affects the biology of human being, reducing the immunodeficiency.
Could not understand your question, sir.
So first of all, we know about the causes and then I can treat it for the anti-HIV. So I would like to know.
What, sir?
I would like to know actually what are the factors responsible for causing the immunodeficiency in the human beings if there is infection of HIV.
It can. You want to know how infection can occur from one person to another person.
Yeah, I know. Yes, I know
Yes.
about it. Secondly, the causes. What are the sites you have chosen? Okay. What are the sites you have chosen for the anti-HIV purpose, testing of the anti-HIV purpose in the virus?
Couldn't getting your question, sir.
What is the site you have chosen to test the anti-HIV potential of your targeted material?
Sir, it is my first synthesis work and it is dealing by my guide.
Okay. Okay. So thank you. फिलहाल थोड़ा सा जानना चाह रहे थे. And what is the nature of virus? It is RNA virus or DNA virus?
DNA virus.
DNA virus. Absolutely right. Are you 100% sure?
What
About
you
the
said,
nature
sir?
of virus? Are you sure about the nature of virus? It is a DNA virus? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Purti. And I wish to congratulate for your nice presentation. A little bit you have to try to find more in the same, but you have tried your best. I congratulate for your best presentation. Thank you,
Sir,
madam.
May I ask one question?
Yeah, Mr. Athilesh, you can ask.
May I know what kind of compounds you have used for anti-HIV? Hello. I think he has leave.
Spurti ma'am, are you able to hear the question of Mr. Akhilesh? Okay, Mr. Akhilesh, I know you know about that very chemical actually, but still you are trying to find the answer from the Purti madam. But it's a great effort. Okay.
No. Actually, sir, my laptop died.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I get disconnected.
Yeah. Can you answer the question of Mr. Akhilesh, please, ma'am?
Sir, I didn't listen question.
Yeah. Mr. Akhilesh, ask once again.
What kind of compounds you have used as a anti-HIV?
Sir, skip basis.
What?
Sif base.
Base microcycle.
Actually, Sif base as a one type of I think reagent which is the process which react with the any compound and form another compound. I want to know the base compound. What is the base compound?
Yeah. Sif base is an entire material, I suppose. Then we know.
Sir, skip base containing macrocyclic compound is here, which is
Yeah.
shown by the orthophenylene diamine and succinimide.
Any kind of macrocyclic compound.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Akhilesh, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Purti. Now over to Mr. Siddharth.
Sir, all done. Now no one are left.
Okay.
Only 3
So
participants are in today.
Yeah, we have listened today 3 plenary sessions by Mr.
Navneet Kumar Sarma, sir.
Navneet Sarma, sir. Dr. Navneet Sarma, scientist, IIT New Delhi. He has delivered on his talk on CBRN and followed by Professor Dr. S. Ganpati Venkata Subramanian. He was expert member of Monitoring Committee, Honorable High Court, Madras. And thereafter, we have listened 3 young scholars. They have presented their scientific findings, reviews very interestingly, and their research work was entirely very dynamic. I even belonging to the some disciplines presenters, but still they have found a new dimension, which is a path breaking for me also. And resources of biological resources like use of the naringin, flavonol, very recent and novel work presented by Ms. Purti, and outstanding work being presented by Ms. Anita Yadav. She is working over parasitology using through certain new dimension, placing new dimension. So thanks for all the presenters and patients, listeners, delegates, scientists present in the virtual seminar. I wish to once again thanks to you all. We will assemble tomorrow here once again on the same platform using same MS Team link at 2 p.m. with new presenters, new plenary sessions, new young scientists, and their consistent evaluation is going on. So young scientists, you are requested, please be active in asking questions, be active in the way of presentation. You have to prepare yourself very well. So any constraints what we have faces today may not faces tomorrow. And wish you all the best for the new young scientist who will present tomorrow onward, because assessment is going on and finally it will be concluded the day of valedictory session, and thereafter the awards will declare. So you will try to your best and then you will be the winner of the same. But though my best wishes for all the young scholars. Now with these words, I would like to stop talking here myself. So Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, Mr. Siddharth.
Jai Hind, sir.
So thank you so much. We will assemble once again tomorrow at 2 p.m. So you are requested to join before 10 minutes, at least at 1:50. So there will be no any kinds of constraints will be taken during the session. As I found today, most of the participants start participating when the session was going on. So you please join before 10 minutes at least. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir, and thank you all. Now, sir, I will leave the session and stop.
You can. Yeah, you can stop the meeting. Thank you.